Ladies and gentlemen, step right up. I'm pleased to present to you Moderate Divide. We take a moderate, non-emotional look at two sides of a topic. Today's subject, gender equality. Hey, it's Ron here. You know, the idea of empowering women sounds great, but when you look at the statistics, women are already getting hired, the salaries are balancing out, things are moving in the right direction. The problem is we've now become so concerned with appearing to be sexist that we're willing to placate women. We give them jobs they're not qualified for. If a woman makes an unfounded accusation, we just have to believe it and derail a man's entire career. How much more empowering do we need? Well, hello, it's Dylan again. I think it's really easy as a man to overlook the struggles that women face every day. They don't affect us, but that doesn't mean they're not real. But I think it's important as a man to make sure that we actually talk to women to get their perspective on their problems. You know, Ron said we're hiring women, but we're hiring them into a man's world. That's the whole thing about taking down the patriarchy. It's not about getting rid of men, it's about actually evening and leveling the playing field. But how do we level that playing field? Like, I'm all for the idea of equality, but there are some things that men are just genetically superior at. If a woman is unable to carry me out of a burning building, she shouldn't be a firefighter. That's not sexism, that's just logic. I understand that, but the whole system has been running on sexism for decades. Women need to stop being treated as the other. You know, men might lose a few of the privileges we've become accustomed to, but that's worth it for women to not feel like they're being walked all over. So I feel like there's a bit of irony that we have to address. We're discussing gender equality in a room exclusively filled with men. I believe it's important to care about others. So yeah, I mean, as a straight, white, cis male, most of these issues that we discuss here don't affect me, but I think it's still important to stand up when we see injustice. The issue is not having a man talk about women's issues. The issue is when a man thinks his opinion is more valid on women's issues. But see, that just proves my point. You've got Dylan here trying to stick up for women, and right out of the gate you make him defend himself. Women will reject what he has to say simply because he's a man. I mean, that's textbook sexism. Women have years of pent-up anger, justifiable anger, absolutely. So yeah, this is their lives, so they're gonna get a little heated. If a woman snaps at me even though I'm trying to help, that sucks, but I'm not going to stop trying to help. Well, I see that as a double standard. These women want to be able to call out men for their sexism immediately, but if we see a woman attacking a man who's trying to help, like Dylan, then we're told, no, just let them attack. They want equality, just not right now. So let's talk equality. What does gender equality mean to you? I believe in the equality of opportunity, not in the quality of the outcome. See, that means a woman can apply for the job, but if she's not as qualified as the man, she'll be at the bottom of the list. So I don't believe we should just assign a certain number of, we must hire this many women. No, hire qualified people. I like the concept, but the problem is, sure, it works out. If the woman's not as good, she's going to be at the bottom of the list. But if that woman outperforms every man, she still won't be at the top of the list. They'll find some reason where she's not good enough or she doesn't belong there. Do you have a specific scenario? Because, I mean, it could easily just be she's unqualified in other areas. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's sexism. Let's imagine that a man and a woman both apply for the same high-level position. They're equally qualified with one exception. The man has more years of experience. He's hired. But why does he have more years of experience? Well, probably because he's better. It's because of sexism past. The problem is back then, women weren't even being considered for these jobs. So now, the woman doesn't have as much experience as a man does. This is why we have mandatory hires for women employees. So you're saying that even though the man did nothing wrong, he should lose out and we should just hand the woman the job because there used to be sexism. But that's exactly what's happening to the woman. The problem is, she's perfectly qualified except for the experience that she doesn't have because of sexism past. That's what's keeping her from getting the job. That sucks, but why does he have to take the fall for it? Men have been given advantages for hundreds of years, so if that guy is as good as you say, he'll have no problem getting another job. But that woman is going to face discrimination no matter where she applies. This is why we put mandatory hires in place. Yeah, but that qualified woman's probably not going to be the one they hire. That mandatory hire is going to be some underqualified, inexperienced girl that's just going to prove why they didn't want to hire her in the first place. Well, see, that leads to my take on equality. It goes beyond just hiring women, because there's still not equality in the workforce or anywhere else in society. Even though women make up nearly 50% of the workforce, they're still only paid 80 cents on the dollar. Well, then negotiate a better salary. That's how men got the better salaries, was by negotiating higher. The workforce is just one place we find inequality. I mean, in general, we treat women like
crap. We objectify them. We criticize them constantly. This is a huge issue that we're probably not going to solve in our lifetime, but I'd like to at least make steps toward it.
All right, let me ask you this, because you just said that men treat women like objects, but what about the fact that women objectify themselves? Like, women will go out in miniskirts clearly trying to get attention, but then they cry sexism as soon as they get it.
What's the question?
You can't treat yourself like an object and then get mad when I do the same.
That's easy. Just respect a woman regardless of what she's wearing.
Respect, she's already disrespecting herself.
Okay, but even if you think that, that doesn't give you the right to disrespect her as well. Let's flip the scenario.
Yeah, whenever a girl starts hitting on me, it's like, thanks. Even if I'm not into her, it makes me feel pretty good.
Okay, but let's say it's not a girl. What if it's a gay man?
Well, I'm not gay, so no thanks.
So you're saying you want him to respect your wishes?
Sure, but I'm also not wearing a thong to a gay bar. Speaking of respect, let's look at this comment from social media. What are your opinions of disrespectful terms like feminazi and the harm that it can do?
I think people use libtard or feminazi to make sure that you see their disrespect. I mean, if I say, hey look, that's a liberal, you don't know, is that good, is that bad? But if I say, look at that libtard over there, you immediately know my position, and probably my IQ.
IQ's 138, you libtard.
But using a term like feminazi, you're doing the same thing. You're trying to derail your opponent's legitimacy.
Look, I use the term feminazi to differentiate between feminism and this current crap. Like, feminism is about equality, and I can get behind that, but this feminazi stuff is the I want to hand out Me Too crowd. The feminazis are the ones causing more harm. Well, speaking of Me Too, let's talk about that. There's a bunch of women coming forward right now with accusations against men, especially men in power. See, again, this is where it's going to be tough to be a man. Like, if I say anything against the movement, women are going to be, oh, so you want women to be raped? No. But what I have a problem with is these bandwagon movements, more politically motivated than actually motivated by helping the victims.
So do you not believe the women? Like, you think assaults don't happen, or do you just not want to hear about it?
No, it just seems that these allegations come out during, like, these big public moments. It was 10, 20, 40 years ago, but now is the time they need to come out. I mean, I feel like, did you get something and now you have buyer's remorse? Maybe you didn't become as big of an actress as you thought you would?
You kind of hit the issue on the head. A woman's talking about being attacked, and your instinct was to question her, to reprimand her. That's the sexism I'm talking about.
So we just assume they're guilty. I mean, no more innocent until proven guilty. What happened to that?
What happened to compassion? The point is not that we assume the man's automatically guilty. The point is to stop assuming the woman is at fault.
Look, I make no assumptions. I'm just wondering, why wait so long?
Men have held positions of power for decades, and they've abused this power to try to silence and humiliate women. The women are just now being able to speak up through this movement because we're just now starting to listen.
I understand that, but when someone says, Me Too, and we're supposed to just believe them, what happens when their story is, we got drunk and I had sex with this guy, later I regretted it, so I want him to lose his job now? Do we need to have body cam footage from the last 20 years just to prove that she actually said yes?
Or don't have random drunken sex with a barely conscious partner you just met.
Pretty sure you just described half the country's Friday night. But no, look, the issue is, if a woman has sex and later regrets it, she shouldn't be able to ruin a man's life by lying about what happened.
If you lie and falsely accuse someone, that's horrible, but statistically, fewer than 2% of rape cases are false accusations. Even so, that's an issue of lying, not an issue of gender equality, so don't try to use that to diminish this conversation.
So it's only gender equality when we're helping women, and when it comes to men, that doesn't matter?
Not really. I mean, the issue is the scale is tipped so heavily toward men right now that we're really just focused on getting women's issues balanced out. Like, men might lose some advantages, some privileges, but we're not going to lose our rights. We're just evening things out.
But at some point, and we might already be there, this equality is going to go past the point of equality and over toward benefiting women, and we need to make sure that men aren't losing their rights. Well, switching to a more family-friendly topic, this commenter asks, what are your thoughts on the traditional gender roles and how they fit in with gender equality? That's a great question, and I don't think they are compatible. You can't be gender equality and traditional family roles, because gender equality says mom makes as much money as dad, but traditional family says mom has to go pick up the kids from school. So if dad can work longer and is more flexible with his hours, he's entitled to a bigger paycheck. He's earned that.
I mean, personally, I don't agree with the scenario that Ron just laid out. If the man and woman are working equally, it shouldn't just be assumed that the woman is going to get the child. But of course it is. And if the man did, he'd probably be praised for such a glorious
glorious deed.
So are you suggesting that in order for gender equality to truly exist, men need to cook and clean and breastfeed? No, it's just don't make assumptions. Like, if you and your wife want to have traditional gender roles, that's fine. But don't just assume that she wants to cook, clean, and take care of the kids while you sit down and kick your feet up.
All right, good old daddy daycare.
If the woman watches the kids, it's her job. But if the man does it, it's babysitting. This is the thing that carries forward in society with these traditional roles. Like, if a man wants to get a vasectomy, snip, snip, he's got it, no problem. But if a woman wants to get her tubes tied, there are some states where she still needs her husband's permission. That's not equality, and that's not right.
Yeah, but this system has been going on for like 250 years in this country and thousands of years in the rest of the world. I mean, we just started fighting sexism recently. This isn't going to change overnight. Well, it's time for our final thoughts, so of course, ladies first. Dylan, that's your cue.
Sure. Women, run for office. Apply for leadership positions. Your voice deserves to be heard. Men, you're not losing rights. You're just learning how to share. Men and women are different, but they're deserving of the same rights.
I'm not denying sexism exists. My problem is with bandwagon movements, because big theatrics sell a movement, and they are selling hard. Like, we need to give time for the system to correct itself and not be at each other's throats the whole time. As you all know, you don't have to agree. You just have to see the point. So Ron, what's Dylan's point? I think that Dylan recognizes that the balance of power has been toward men for, the beginning of time, and we are slowly shifting it toward women, but I think Dylan wants it to happen immediately, even at the expense of our own rights. Dylan? Ron's point.
Ron believes that this imbalance that favors men is natural. He believes that we shouldn't and probably can't change it. He believes that equality is something that men have to offer women because they couldn't earn it on their own.
Well, that's it for now. Drop some comments, so if you want to keep the conversation going, and come back next week for our final episode.